is going on, hobby family? It is your boy K-Dub. K-Dub's High Five. 5 rapid-fire questions with your favorite hobby faces. And today we bring in one of my personal Twitter hobby favorites. He doesn't shy away from anyone when it comes to the Twitter timeline. My good friend Ronnie, a.k.a. at Primetime SC2 on Twitter, and mainly on Twitter. How are you doing today, bro?
Doing good. What's up, K-Dub?
Oh, not a lot. Like we were talking about, man. I'm just closing out my day of school, and I figured no better way to do that than to bring in a great dude to interview for a high five. So how it
Call
works?
me anytime.
5 hobby related questions. I'm gonna throw them at you one right after another. Ready to take on the high five?
I'm ready. Bring it.
All right, man. First question. Always love hearing how people come up with their Twitter ats. There's obviously some sort of thought that goes through there. At Primetime SC2. How'd you come up with it?
Yeah, so it sounds kind of lame, but if you're close to my age, I feel like I was at the advent of eBay way back in the day. It's sort of been probably still even in the '90s. I don't know when they launched, but I realized when I got back into the hobby, I got into Twitter, I got into social media, and I started to tell people like, hey, what's your eBay store and those kind of things. And my original my original eBay handle was Dion something, some bunch of numbers. I was like, I better come up with something that's some like a brand or synergy between what I'm doing on social media because it's confusing. It doesn't make sense. I don't look like a Dion. My name's not Dion. So I made the change there. I'm going to be Primetime Sports Cards as sort of an homage to the sales that I used to do as Dion, whatever it was, way back in the day. And then I built it. And then I talked to a graphic designer. I had a follower on Twitter that was a graphic designer. I was like, hey, I can build a logo for you. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then it became prime time.
So we got to shout out Deion Sanders, man. He's the reason behind it.
He is, yeah. He's the man, the myth, and the legend. I grew up with posters of him on my wall, high stepping at football practice. Trying to do dual sports.
Oh yes,
No, Deion's the
yes.
man. Yeah.
The primetime shuffle, man. Can you do it?
Not right now. I'm a little busy. Catch me maybe after a couple drinks or something. I don't know.
Oh, so here's a funny story about my mom. One time, my mom knew one of my favorite players was Deion Sanders as well, and she was just randomly, and she goes, you kind of look like Deion Sanders," and I just stopped and I went, "That doesn't work, mom. Like that."
I guess maybe.
She was like, "No, in your smile, in your smile." I said, "Oh, okay. I guess we
Sure.
we both have smiles, so that works."
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh,
Did you have the Jerry curl and the earrings and
I,
the
I didn't.
glasses?
I did have some of the chains, but I didn't have any of
Okay,
that Jerry.
there you go. There you go. That's close enough. Yeah, there you go.
All right, man. Second question. You kind of talked about getting back into the hobby. When it comes to like your collecting, like for you, your personal collecting, like who would you kind of credit as some of your influences or inspirations when it comes to your own personal collecting?
Yeah, no question. My dad. I bet there's a lot of people out there like that have a similar story to me. I collected as a kid. My dad got me really into the hobby, and then as an adult, I kind of came back into it. But I absolutely credit my dad with he collected through the 1960s, so like probably like 62 to 72, and he's got Nolan Ryan rookie cards and Pete Rose and Johnny Bench rookie cards. And I remember as a kid sitting around and he would, we'd pull them out and he had them all in top loaders. And, we'd walk and he'd say, oh, Nolan Ryan, he's the Ryan Express. And he, 1968 tops, and he'd tell me the stories and stuff. And and then that led into my own collecting of why, cards were important and you take care of them and all these different things, which was really special to me. So I got to use, that experience with him,
Yeah.
and it kind of translates into today.
Is your dad still into collecting into the hobby at all?
When I got back into it, I kind of, I sort of was doing it myself and just kind of like, yeah, it was a true just hobby on the side of, I'm working, I'm a dad now, I'm busy, just like, probably like you and a lot of your viewers are. And, when I kind of told him, man, I'm getting back into it, he was super supportive and he was great about it. In fact, we're actually doing the Minnesota Sports Card Show in April, and he's actually flying up to do it with me. So we're going to man the tables together, something that we talked about when I was 8 years old of doing, and we're finally going to get to do it now. And I'm so it's really special to me. It means a lot. And yeah, he's been great about it. And I actually have his cards now. So, I've got them all, they were in top loaders and now they're slabbed and
Oh,
graded.
nice.
And it's pretty great.
Okay, so when is you doing a table at a show? You said, right?
That's right. Yep. April 20th here in Minneapolis.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know who watches this thing from Minnesota, but if you're in Minneapolis, go check out Ronnie, Primetime Sports Talk. Tell him you were a viewer of the High Five, and he'll give you a
High five.
high five. There we go.
There
All right,
we go.
high five. There it is. Sweet. Cool. Well, that's really sweet, man. I know that
Yeah.
my dad was a huge influence in my collecting. My dad didn't really collect, but he loved getting me to the card shop and talking about sports. So I would agree. I think dads are definitely big influences in the majority of our
Oh yeah.
collecting.
Oh
So
yeah.
if your dad was a part of your collecting journey, shout it out in the comments. Let us know if your dad was a part. I'd be interested to hear how many people's dads, had that influence. So, all right, question 3, man. You mentioned Mr. Prime Time. I know I saw a tweet, but I don't know if this is going to be the answer. Grail card for you, man. What is the Grail card for your collection and why?
I actually have it here. I brought it. I
Oh
brought
man,
it here.
okay, let's go.
Which is good. Yeah, which is important. It's the 1987 Topps Jim Gantner. So I don't know
Okay.
if you. That's probably. I got it one touched. This one's a little off center. Corners aren't great, but that's probably my answer. No, I do. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I think for me, like I said, going back to my dad, not to be too corny about it, but growing up, my dad's card was the Nolan Ryan rookie card, and that was like, if the house burned down, like maybe get the dog, but get the Nolan Ryan card. That was and that's not him telling me, that's me in my head. I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah.
that's how important it was. No, I'm just joking, but no, I think that would be probably for me. I had found out as an adult that my dad told me stories, years later, we're talking about collecting. I didn't know that when I was a baby, my parents, struggled, and like a lot of young parents, probably do, with buying a house and having a baby and all these things. And my dad actually sold off a huge part of his collection for
Oh,
him and my mom and me to actually make it through. And what was left was the cards that I kind of, grew up knowing and seeing. And he had told me relatively recently that he had sold out. He had basketball cards, and I never knew my dad to have basketball. Like 60s, 70s, 80s basketball cards, which would be awesome to have today. So I think I've got a few of those. I've asked him a few of those cards, like what did you have? And he's like, oh, I used to have this or that. And I think I would buy something if I could. Money was no object. I think I'd get like a PSA 10 Nolan Ryan rookie card, or something like something like that, something that ties my dad and I together. That's probably a cheesy answer, but it's the truth.
no, it's a great answer, man. This is a high five. Cheesy is what we're all about on the high five. So we want to know you,
Unless
man. So,
unless you've got a slab of the Jim Gantner. I mean,
well,
I'm
you
gonna hang on to this one.
need a 10, and those are probably pop one, maybe. I mean, there's probably one out there.
Fond du Lac, Wisconsin's finest, according to the back of this Topps card. So
Oh, can't go wrong with junk wax, man. I love it.
that's right. That's right.
Well, hey, let's move to the product. When it comes to product of choice, you got all the money in the world, can rip any box of cards in the history of cards that you want. What box are you going to rip and why?
Oh, it's a great question. Really good question. I think the obvious, maybe the cliche answer is probably like 1952 Topps or something, right? You're hunting for the mantle rookie or the $1 million card. For me, I collect, and I buy and sell what I used to collect as a kid. I really enjoy that. The nostalgic part of it is really important to me. I think again, I don't know what your viewers are going to think of this. For me, it would be like 1996 Topps basketball.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right. Like, and just go and just pull rookies of Nash and Ray Allen, of course, Kobe. Jordan was in that set. Like, I mean, it's the quintessential, 90s basketball set for me. Guys that I grew up watching and idolizing, and not to mention cards still hold pretty tremendous value. Topps Chrome. I should probably make it Chrome if I had to. So but 96 Topps. I still punch myself in the face when I go through, some of my collection and just think of how much 96 Topps basketball I bought as a kid at the local card store or whatever, and traded away or just got rid of because who's Steve Nash and whatever, just all the stupid things we did as a kid. So yeah, that's probably I just buy a case after case of that if I could.
That is my like 84 draft class right there. For me, like in my middle school year, I mean, those are the guys. I mean, I could probably walk you through maybe the first 10 picks of that draft. Even like the Marcus Camby's, the Sharif Abdul-Rahims, like even those guys get me excited. Just because that's my middle school years. I mean, those were the guys that I invested in when it comes to my time and energy and wants. So, but I would have to go.
Your viewers are going to dislike this video if we don't mention the #1 pick, Allen Iverson. Of course,
Well, of course.
Iverson was in that class. Yeah.
which gets overlooked all the time because
All the
of
time.
Kobe and Ray Allen, Steve Nash. Like Iverson was in that draft, and I think it's because Iverson wasn't on the Slam cover. If you remember when they did the Slam magazine and they had all of them, Iverson was not on the cover, and I think that's why a lot of times people forget he was in the draft. My own thoughts there, but that's my
That's a
own.
deep take. That's
You
deep.
know,
Yeah.
I put a lot of
Wow.
thought in this stuff, man. So, all right, man. Last question for you. I love your takes on Twitter because you're often very straightforward when it comes to things. And I know one thing that you talk about often, maybe not often, but I've heard you mention several times, is just this idea of cards as this investment. And I think some of that is your background a little bit. But as you kind of hear this, and this is kind of the new trend, with people like Sports Cards Investor and things like that, kind of pushing this idea of investments in sports cards. Kind of what's your take on this trend and this idea of sports cards as an investment?
Oh, K-Dub, we're getting into the polarizing topics now. I can see.
I
So
know, man.
this is
It
where the
is,
high
man.
five. Yeah.
We're
So
taking turns.
I actually have a background in finance, and I also have a background like you do in education. I actually went to school to be a teacher. I was a teacher for a short time before, moving into finance, and I enjoy the aspects of
Man,
both.
you
And I
took the
think
pay cut. You took the pay cut.
yeah, I was like, exactly. No, shout out all the teachers out there and all the great work that everybody does, including you, K-Dub, and all the work you do, not only in the hobby, but also, of course, in your hometown and taking care of your family, being a dad, but also being a teacher for some great kids up there in Washington. So, but no, to answer your question, I do feel like though that my background kind of gives me an interesting perspective to sort of like Twitter provides this platform to say, hey, here's how some people look at cards. Let's talk about that. I think it's more fun though. Twitter, creates this great environment for conversation, and I think that some people on Twitter I find are hard line that it's one or the other, that it can't be one or it can't be the other, which kind of creates sometimes a fun conversation because I love going after people that are just hardline stance on anything. Like if you can't listen to a differing perspective to me, I'm going to call you out on it. So there are some people who, hey, listen, cards can't be an investment because an investment technically is, and they get into some technical mumbo jumbo. But to me, I think if you want to invest in grass seed, I don't know, I'm looking out the window and at the lawn, which is probably what I need to do. But no, I mean anything can be an investment if you want to put it that way.
Sure.
I think when it comes to sports cards though, I think if that's where you want to sort of put money, I guess you can do it. And there's opportunities to make money in the hobby for sure. There's lots of people who do. And I think if you want to sort of learn that aspect of, kind of what I call the business, I think it's admirable. And I think to me, that is part of the hobby. Like I enjoy, buying and collecting and stuff. I also enjoy selling. I mean, I'd be lying. And I think most viewers would if they said, I don't like pulling a card and selling it for $100. Like I just want to collect. Like, okay, you can do both. You can collect and you can also, buy and sell and sort of make the economy of the hobby grow as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm happy to talk at length on Twitter for anyone who wants to come at me with an opinion.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right, man. I think there is absolutely a space for both in there. And I don't think any of us are like, I'm going to save all my cards forever and always and forever. At some point, I think some of us are going to sell a card, which actually moves you into a little bit of the investor idea because you're making money on X, Y, and Z. But I think there's a balance of it too, where you're also collecting. Who's your guy there? Jim Garfunkel or what?
JG from the Brew Crew, Jim Gantner.
Jim Gender. But I mean, there's room for both. There's room for that type of collecting, and there's also room for the type of collecting that maybe you want to, get a card that you're going to hold on to or grade and sell later for more amount than you paid for it. So
I mean, we're all in business, right? I mean, we're like, I would trade this for like a one-of-one Mahomes. If someone was like, hey, I'll make you, like, I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm open to.
There you go.
I'm open to deals.
If you're one of those, then the offer's for you. I'll make sure to have the contact in the description of this video. Shout him out on Twitter. You can make that deal for the one among Mahomes. So, all right, man. I got one more bonus question. I just came up with a new segment for the high five. Prime time pump and dump. You got two cards that you're pumping right now, or two guys you're pumping, two guys that you're dumping on right now when it comes to collecting in the hobby. Go. Who you got?
All right. Pumping, no question for me. Brooks Lee, prospect with the Minnesota Twins.
Okay.
I'm a believer. They're bringing him up to spring training. He's their number one guy.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it up to the pros this year or even next year. But
Okay.
a guy I'm definitely buying right now. The other one I think is underrated in the hobby, and his prices are kind of up there right now, just where the football season ends. Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is underrated for me.
Yeah.
And I don't do a lot of buying of anyone in the NFL that's not a quarterback, and that's just kind of the way it is. I feel like the other positions, running backs especially, I feel like there's just too short of a window.
For sure.
Guys, I'm dumping right now. That is a tough question. Oh man, you're gonna have to edit this for time. You're gonna have to give me a minute. You have to give me a minute. You're gonna have to give me a minute to think about it. Guys, I'm dumping would be, I think is a good time to sell Mahomes. I don't know that I'm necessarily getting rid of Mahomes, but I think that there's his market is about to take a dip when they go into the offseason, like all sports do.
For sure.
The other one is I'm not a big buy. I'm stretching now because I'm not a huge, and this is going to be, we got a product coming out in 2023. So Tops, don't hate me for this. Adley Rutschman. I'm just not a,
Okay.
I think the Orioles have a great, I think he's going to be great. I think the Orioles have a great farm system. I think they got a good young team. But I struggle with prospects, and this goes for a lot of baseball prospects. I struggle buying guys on teams that aren't looking to be successful.
Gotcha.
If Torkelson with the Tigers, even Wander with the Rays a little bit. Just when guys, when you're like O'Neal Cruz, love the guy. He hit the hardest ball in the history of Major League Baseball last year. He's likable, totally marketable, but he's playing in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is just going to tank until the year 2050. And I just feel so bad for the guy.
All right, friends, that concludes Prime Time Pump and Dump. And that clears the list from the high five, my friends. So, hey, shout out in the comments if you think those pumps or dumps are accurate. So, but that's all I got, man. We got a high five. Throw it up. High five. Boom. You can follow Ronnie on Twitter mainly at PrimetimeSC2. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, DizzyDub1. Also, if you're bored, you can follow me on Twitter too at Mr. KDub. Shout out to the high five endorsers this year. Awesome dudes over at Buck City Breaks and Eric Hecker doing his rack of the day thing on Twitter. Thanks so much, Ronnie. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you joining me. Take care. See you guys next time on the next high five.
Thanks, KDub.